and I can have my opposite pass, number 2. Okay, can you see that, Wade? All right. Okay, and so then the potential overlaps are 5 has to stay behind 11. She has to stay left of 15. 2 has to stay in front of the libero. Okay, let's go to rotation 4. All right, so now our setter is rotated to the front row. And I still want number 6, number 15, and the libero to pass. Number 6 is all the way over on the right, and I really want her to pass on the left. So I'm going to put her over here on the left. I want her to pass right here, and I'm going to have to move some people to make this legal. I'm going to move number 11 over, and I'm going to move number 5. Okay, so we got my same 3 people, 6, 15, and the libero. We got our opposite way back in the corner. She's helping us call in and out on 2 different lines. The potential overlaps, really not a lot right here because 6 has to be in front of 2, and that's not even close. Okay, number 5 has to stay to the left. My whole front row, raise your hand. Okay, they're all stacked over here. Okay, so now toss the ball. My setter's gonna run over to the target. All right. Okay, so let's do that again. Okay, one thing sometimes you'll see is a setter will try to fool you and make herself look like she might be back row just by moving behind. She does not have to be behind number 11. She has to be to the left of number 11. Okay, so the front row, still 5, 11, and 6. One of the ways I can tell is if I see somebody hanging out way in the corner over here, and they're using 3 people, there is most likely, almost always, a front row setter somewhere. And if that opposite is hanging out way back there somewhere, the setter is most likely front row. Okay, so as an official, I want to keep track of the setter number 5 and who is opposite. Okay, so if I know 2 is opposite, and I'm looking at 2 in the corner there, there's nobody behind number 2. So if they are legal, she's a back row player, and that means 5 is a front row player. Okay. The other thing I can do is I can switch 15 and 6. That is the one sometimes you see. Okay, Hannah, go back. Now, if I just want Hannah to get ready to hit, I can push her up and I can shift all these guys over and I can have my opposite pass. Okay, front row, raise your hand. You guys are stacked all the way over to the left. Right, and now the only possible overlap sometimes you will see is if we don't want this person to pass and we want Hannah to pass. Okay, sometimes we see 6 has to be a little bit in front of number 2, right? And then the other overlap is 5 may take off early before the serve. Okay, so those are the potentials in row 4, rotation 4. Yep. 5 takes off early. That happens quite a bit because she's got a long way to go to get to the target, and she wants to get a head start. This is rotation 5. Setter's in the front row. We're going to have our same 3 people back up and pass. Rachel, back up. Okay, our same 3 passers. Sunny, get off the net a little bit. Okay. Okay, so this is a very common rotation 5. We have number 2 back there in the corner. If I see somebody way back at the end line, thinking front row setter. Okay, and as an official, I'm keeping track of 5 and 2 really well. All right.
Here's 15 behind the libero.
Yep. So if 15 goes back too far, that would be a violation. Okay. The other one would be if Ramey came too far this way from the libero. Okay. She needs to be in between libero number 9 and number 6. Toss the ball. Okay, well done. Let's go to row 6. Okay, rotation 6. Our libero comes off. Grace comes in legally behind the attack line onto the court. Okay. Sunny served really well, and then now our libero comes in for number 11, Sunny. All right, so let's rotate to rotation 6. Go. Our middle switch, and our libero goes right over and serves the ball. Okay, and so the only way that we can see two, in this case, red shirts go flying by each other on the sideline is if the libero has the ball ready to serve. Okay, otherwise, it kind of looks like a sub that didn't wait for the official. Yeah, the only time we can see those go is libero has to have the ball ready to serve. Great job. Okay, so now they sided us out. Now we're in row 6. Serve, receive. Serve, receive. Same 3 people, 15, 6, and libero. Grace, you got to be over to the left of Grace roll a little bit. So 18 is left front. 15 is middle front. Number 5 is right front. Okay, and then back row, you got libero right back, 6 middle back, and 2 left back. Okay, and so now we're ready to toss the ball. This is, hang on. The reason that we have 15 here, 15 could be anywhere between 18 and 5. We want her to pass on the left and then hit on the left. So now she's in a really nice spot to be ready to attack from here. So that's why we have her there, right? Toss the ball, please. Great. Okay, so option, don't see it a lot, but sometimes I can switch these two. Okay, I could have her pass from here, and who do you have to stay in front of? Stay in front of Hannah. Okay, and then you have to be over here on this side of Hannah now. Okay, all right, so I could switch the outside hitters in the passing if I wanted to. You don't see it a lot, but that's an option. Okay, you have anything else in row 6? Okay. All right.
We have cable.
Oh, uncable yourself with Frontier Fiber Internet.
Okay, we're back.
We're back.
That was a 5-1 offense with number 5 setting all the balls in all 6 rotations. Another common offense is a 6-2 offense where they have 2 setters and 6 different hitters. So in this case, when we rotate from rotation 3 to rotation 4, I'm going to sub out my front row setter number 5 for an opposite number 14. Go. There's sub number 1. Okay, we're going to rotate, and then number 2 comes up. Go. You guys come out. Number 2 comes off. Okay, I sub out a new setter for my opposite. Go. Right. And so now, Ella, number 20, is my new setter, and number 14 is my new opposite. You're going to back up and pass there. You're going to come over here. Okay, we're going to back up and pass. We got the same 3 people, 6, 9, and 15. Okay, number 20 has to stay a little bit behind number 6. Sunny and number 11 back off the net a little bit. Okay, so this is technically rotation 4 because we rotated through the 1, 2, and 3, but it looks strikingly similar to rotation 1, except with different people. Okay, so in rotation 1, number 5 was back there running around number 15. This is technically number 4, but it looks exactly like rotation 1. Okay, and the same potential overlaps. So 20 has to stay behind 6 until it's served. Okay, let's rotate to the next rotation. Okay, so 20 is going to push up number 14. The serve receive, Sonny, you back up. You got the same 3 passers, number 15, number 9, and number 6. Okay, 20 has to stay behind 14. And in between number 9, the libero, and number 6.
2 back. Turn this on hold.
Yep.
The 2 back row outside players, raise your hand. Back row outside players. Okay, so the back row setter number 20 needs to be between those 2 players. Anywhere that 6 and the libero go, 2 has to follow and stay in between those 2 players. 20. I'm sorry, what did I say?
You said 2.
Oh. So anywhere 6 and 9, the libero goes, 20 needs to stay in between those 2 players. So if 6 and libero were to move to the right side more, go
Move over that way.
over that way,
You too, sir.
20 needs to follow and stay in between.
Rotate to the next rotation. This would be on this team. It would, yep, my middle comes back in. Okay, and this would be rotation 6 in this row for this team, but it looks strikingly similar to rotation 3. Ella is going to push up Grace. Oh yeah, we're going to put you back in after number 11 is done serving. Same 3 passers, number 15, number 6, and number 9. Okay, and Grace, you have to be left of Rachel. All the way over this way. There you go. All right. And so potential overlap is 20 has to be 18, sorry, 18 has to be closer to the net than 20. And how far that way can you go, Ella, number 20? Can you cross number 15? Yes. And she can go all the way over to number 6. Okay. And now as an official, looking at it from the side, sometimes it's tough for me to tell if you're a little closer to her. Okay, sometimes it's a little tougher for me to tell if 20 is a little bit left of 6 without walking all the way over there. Okay, a lot of times we have a basketball court. These circles are the same size. Okay, so if I see number 20 near the edge of this circle and I see number 6 in the middle of the other circle, I know that 20 is to the left of 6 because these circles are the same size. Okay, the other thing I can see is if I'm watching and I see 20 kind of look over like and go like that, they're thinking she's good because she's looking at the same exact thing I'm looking at. She's got a better angle at it than I do. If I see her look at her overlap and make a little adjustment, it's probably good.
It's
All right.
the feet position that's most important. And that's what counts, the feet.
We'll have, you come back over here, Ella. Speaking of feet, you stay right here. All right, Grace, you have to be closer to the net. Now you bring your right foot past Ella this way. Keep going. All right, is that legal? Can you see that?
That is legal.
Yes, because 18 has one body part closer to the net, closer to the center line than 20. Okay, it does not matter that her other foot is further behind. Okay. And that is rotation 6. We rotate and here come our subs. Okay, so this is where Ella rotates to the front row and she subs back in. Rami subs in for Ella. Okay, go. And then my setter subs back in for 14, and she goes back into position 1. That's a common double substitution that you see on a lot of teams in a 6-2, including our national team is doing that until they run out of subs. Right? And that is pretty much the 6 rotations. All right, so one of the potential things that can happen with a back row setter is occasionally these guys pass the ball a little bit too tight. And she is going to try to save it, but now she is in front of this attack line, and if she is above the height of the net, she cannot put the ball over because she becomes an attacker. So we're going to hopefully simulate a tight pass that she's going to try to save. And if she can jump, jumping is actually not part of the rule. It's where she contacts the ball in relation to the height of the net. Okay, so I'm going to simulate a pass, and you guys all transition and get ready to hit. Okay, go.
And we're back. Is that true? So I know for people that are just starting out that it can be confusing to watch that. I think it's clearer to me than the presentation that Alan did, because dots on a sheet of paper aren't real clear, but when you put them together, I think it gives you a good working basis as you're developing. I think for people that are advanced and have coached and have, this may be a little bit less useful, but for people in the middle, I just think extremely useful for getting to understand how the rotations work. I went for a number of years thinking that a back row attack was going to be the tallest person on the court who happens to be in the back row who's fed the ball, like we are in the backyard. And it wasn't until somebody said to me that it's the setter is close to the net from the back row, and the pass goes a little bit too far. And like we saw in those last plays they were showing, ends up going above the head of the net to try to save the ball back or just attack it in the hopes that nobody notices that she's an illegal attacker. That is like 90% of your back row attacks. 10% are the 6'2" player in the backcourt who sheepishly goes back into the back row, and you go, oh, she must have been back row, and you can identify her. Don't sweat this this year. You're not going to have any back row attacks, I promise you, in any of your games. But you are going to have rotations every point. And we really want you to start identifying the rotation. I mean, from that setup, 5 and 2 were opposite. So if you were just tracking that 5 and 2 were opposite through every rotation, you're going to be like miles ahead of where you need to be in your first year. But as the set progresses, then you can add players, and the player that 15 is following number 5. You start putting the whole court together on that side. And while it's a big help with the overlaps and the back row attacks eventually, it's also a big help when the wrong server is about to hit the ball, and you're like, wait a second, 5 just hit, 15 should be serving now, and number 4 is back there. What the heck's going on here? And you can stop that before you have some sort of a disaster happening. So I hope this makes you aware of some of the resources that are available on the website, and that this, in my mind, this video, which by the way, all those players probably graduated college already. This was like a pre-COVID kind of thing. They're married with 2.4 kids and a BMW. But a great resource for us. None of that has changed. Those are really the basic rotations and positions that they take in those. And one of the things that is kind of unfortunate is the way they did the libero switches, which would have been useful. You couldn't really see it, or I couldn't, because I had all your faces. Maybe you could see it. I've got the lineup of the Zoom call on that side, but we're going to go over that today, if I can figure out how to. Yep, there we go. Okay, so I apologize. I'm a tech guy, and I'm used to being the tech guy, but in order to do the things that Zoom requires,
High in the air to right. It shot up.
Chris,
Sutton
do you have
going
a
back.
baseball game on? Because we're listening to it.
what was that?
Second, they're
There's
gonna
a baseball game somewhere.
Bachman on time to
It's probably mine.
on that one.
In order to have like the commercial package, unfortunate that Jimmy does, I have no idea how it works. I don't have the practice to do it. So my apologies. All right. So that's kind of the wrap on the rotations and, the back row stuff for now. So now we'll go to the serve. Pretty basic, right? So the serve happens between the 2 hash marks on the baseline, like behind the baseline. And there's supposed to be hash marks on either sideline extended. If there's not, the sideline acts as your guidepost. And so the serve has to happen from in between those. However, they can zoom in from beyond the sideline extended, as long as they either finish with their feet on the ground properly or in the air. Good. The reserve, which is different than the replay, is something that happens when the server releases the ball for service and then either catches it or lets it drop. Some players will do this intentionally as part of a rhythm, I think, to get going. Sometimes some players will just not get the elevation on the ball or the location that they want, so they let it drop. And in Federation, we give them a second opportunity to toss the ball. And the signal for that is the same as a replay, however. Now, if you're the R2, you want to make sure that the book has properly recorded a reserve as RS on the sheet, right where they would otherwise record it. If another RS comes up there, we're going to have a problem. However, as I note, let's see, as part of a single attempt to serve. On the second line, each player may have 1 reserve per term of service. So if I'm serving, I have a reserve and I win a few points and it's senior night and they want to put in the senior, they sub me out and they put in the senior, and that person tosses the ball, forcing a reserve. That's legal. It's a different player in the same term of service. So we're going to let that go. If somebody throws the toss up for serve and it hits a backboard or a rim, that's not a reserve. That ball is out and the point goes to the other team. And that may be something that you want to talk about in your captain's conference as part of the ground rules. It's be known already, but it doesn't hurt, especially if you're in a middle school or, the freshman games that sometimes the kids want to serve from the middle of the court, and oftentimes that's where the basket is down, and it could happen. I haven't seen it happen often, but it could. And because a reserve is part of the initial attempt to serve the ball, no request may be made until the ball is served. So if I throw the ball up in the air and it falls to the ground and a reserve is ruled, no timeouts can be asked for. A libero can't come running onto the court. The other team can't ask for a lineup check. The next play is going to be the player throwing the ball up in the air and hitting it for a serve, which is going to happen 99 times out of 100. So not a big thing. Legal things that can happen. Have a baseball game on. Jim's texting me that we have about I don't have, there you go. Okay. Illegal things that can happen during a serve is we can have a foot fault, which we'll see in a moment on a video. We say 5 seconds. So the kids, and we don't want to talk about other sets of rules, but Federation is the only set of rules that has gives players 5 seconds to serve the ball. So if they're playing on a weekend, they might be used to 8 seconds. If you do basketball or like some other sport that has a time limit, and we say, if somebody's taking a free throw in basketball, they get 10 seconds. And when you get to 10, the next thing you're going to say is 11, because you're not going to make that call. I'm not saying that you're not going to make that call, but I usually give them to 8. And then if it goes beyond 8, then I'll talk to the captain, especially in a lower level game. As the captain comes around, either at the end of a set or in the rotation, just say, hey, number 13 is taking too long. It's not legal. I've let it go so far, but I'm going to need to call it if it continues, and you'll see it get cleaned up right away. But, nowadays, especially in those lower levels, maybe the player has, I don't know, I'm always thinking maybe the player has some other issue that I really don't want to challenge. Again, as I said, an anxiety thing or whatever, that a whistle is going to cause a problem. Like if I can give her 1 extra second and not cause tears, then I'm good. And again, second thing is the second reserve not allowed, and the signal for that is an illegal hit. So you just give baseball's back again. Hey, everybody, turn the baseball off. I'm like, I don't know if it's on my phone, Jim. I turned all the volume off, so I don't think it's me. And I don't even watch baseball anymore. Who watches baseball? Somebody boring wants to be a volleyball official, I think. All right, so the serve becomes dead, and I broke these up into 2 different groups. It's not going to let me go on this, so. Not for me. Sox winning. Honestly, I don't know where I could be contributing to a baseball game. So we're going to have. You still hear it, Jim? Me, Jim, me. I broke this up into 2 different groups. One is going to be regarding mechanics. Okay, so the first 3 of these, when they happen, the mechanic for the dead ball is going to be point, and then we're just going to kind of touch the net. If it goes under the net, it's a point for the team because it didn't go over the net. If it hits a teammate it's a point to the other team because it didn't get over the net. And if it touches the floor before it gets over, then it's also going to be same thing. It didn't get over the net. So now if it goes outside the antenna, over the net, but outside the antenna, that's out. If it hits something in the ceiling, a rope hanging down from the ceiling that has been ruled to be out, or just goes out, then it is going to be the out signal as opposed to the net signal. I just want to make this note. I think it's kind of interesting. I've never had to do this, but it's the rule in a couple of different spots. So a player is serving the ball. The team on the receiving team is out of rotation. It's not illegal until the serve has been struck legally. So if it's a foot fault, that is not a legal serve. So the receiving team would not be penalized. However, if the server legally strikes the ball and it goes into the net and falls short, that would be out of rotation. So you're not going to call that for the first 15 years. And if you do, then please get in touch with me and I'll update my conversation about this. So again, this was a really good match to pull some plays from. And we saw, so is my screen still shared?
No.
It's not. Okay, good. Was my screen shared on the other stuff that I just went through?
No.
I had it all typed up nice and pretty. Let's see. One participant can share at a time. Share screen. And we're going to do. Okay, so I want to show you the libero switches and the different faults in the serve, and they kind of overlap in several of the same plays. So let me see what, can everybody see this, their screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to do from the current slide and hit play, and let's see where we go. Oh, you know what? So before he hits the ball, notice where the libero on this side of the court is. He is in the 5, which means after they lose a point, the other team serves. When the team on the left wins their next point, he would be rotating to the front row, which is not legal. So that is going to force a libero switch, which means he is going to come off the court and the teammate for whom he replaced is going to come on the court and move into the front row. So let's watch that. So Darien now has the serve. All right, so this is going to be a reserve. Tosses it intentionally, like, you know what, I need to get my head around this. And yep, I know I reset the whole play, but I wanted you to see Rich Duggan is a national official in a division and a Division I college official. So watch him as the replay. Now he gives the 2 thumbs up for replay, which the R2 should be signaling as well, but then, and now he signals a reserve, beckons the serve. And this guy's nice enough to foot fault on that. See, the signal is to point to the line. So point, Trumbull. Okay, now I might set this up to watch it again, which you'll have to. So now I want you to imagine you are the R2 standing over here, and you're in charge of the benches, and there's all these kids standing at the end of the bench, which is not legal, and there's probably a similar number standing at the other end of the bench, and maybe a coach on your left is asking, let's see, maybe the coach on your left is asking for some information, and keep your eye on the libero on the left. Got the foot fault. So libero should be switching to the front row, but instead he does not come out of the game. He's supposed to be coming up here. And the player who he came in for should be replacing him up in the front row. But in one rotation, he or she is allowed to serve the ball. He doesn't need to leave the court. She doesn't need to leave the court. The other player just needs to replace him. So two things are actually happening as you try to explain it to a libero tracker. One, the libero is being replaced by the player that they originally replaced, and they're also simultaneously replacing, and in this case, it's going to be number 9 who's going off the court to serve the ball. There's also a sub there. So, well, I bet that sub was illegal. Oh, I'm going to watch that one again. You know what? I'll watch it on my own time, and I'll get back to you on that. The libero must be replaced by the player that replaced him or her. And if you want somebody else to be on the court, you need to make a substitution. But first, the other player must come on the court. And I didn't see that happen. I may have just missed it. So I think that's the end of it. So I'm just saying, as the R2, there's a lot of stuff that's going on over there, and you're thinking, "Jeez, is this legal?" There's like a Chinese fire drill over here on my right, and I'm trying to answer the coach on my left about, how many timeouts she has left, etc. And there's all this activity. Yeah, I don't think that was legal. So the funny thing is, I'll ask every libero tracker what they're looking for. When they're like, "What do you mean?" Like, "Well, you're here for a reason. It's part of the rules. Like, what is illegal about what you're going to do?" And rarely do they know. And I have not charged an illegal libero replacement in the 20 years since they made the rule change, because unless the libero tracker tells me, I don't know who the libero came in for or out for. I will say, I'll turn to the table and say libero serving for number 9 on the right. It helps me remember that number 9 is the one that the libero is serving for, so I know where in the order the libero is serving, but it also makes sure that everybody at the table is noting it where they're supposed to note it, in the scorebook or on the libero replacement sheet. So back to the libero. They're a defensive specialist. I think probably put in there to help reduce the number of substitutions in a match that were cutting the momentum of games down. You rarely see a team approach the 18 subs that they're allowed to set, because you can have the libero come in and, that's probably 6 subs right there. What would have been 6 subs, now it's just a replacement that doesn't require a whistle, it doesn't require a stoppage of play. The libero, as we just saw, can serve as the team captain, and they have to have a grassing color uniform. And that's really so you'll know that it's the libero that's on the court, and the scorer as well can see that there's something funny going on. In this photograph, this is actually from a match this past fall that I was officiating in. At the end of the match, my partner said, "I think back row or an illegal attack," because the setter may have been on the line. And I was able to pull up the video. I didn't even know what they were talking about, so I was lost and had no idea, I have to admit. But you see that the player in back who's approaching the net is wearing blue, and that was the team color. So the libero is wearing white, and both of his feet are behind the 10-foot line, but it's really close. And the R2, which I was, is supposed to help with the feet so that the R1 can watch the hands and look for an illegal, like a double hit, something along those lines. Sometimes when you're looking at the hands, it's not always easy to pick up the feet at the same time. But if that player's left foot was on the line, that would be a set. Next ball was attacked above the height of the net by a player, that would be an illegal attack, no matter who the other player is. It doesn't matter if that player is front row or back row. All that matters is that the libero, who is a back row by definition player, had their foot on the line, and they don't want the libero. And you'll see some really good. Usually, it's like the setter in waiting. Like the libero is usually a very good ball handler, but it's already an advantage to have a libero in the game without substitution. So you want to pile on by having an extra setter in the game. They can never attack a ball that is above the height of the net, no matter where it is on the court. So you'll see setters attack the ball from behind the 10-foot line. And generally speaking, they're one of the shorter people on the team. So you probably don't have to worry about it. You can just explain to the coach, I don't think they touch the top of the height of the net. Never mind attack a ball that's totally above the height of the net. But there certainly are times where the setter is tall enough and athletic enough to get that high, and so you got to know that that is illegal. They can never attempt to block the ball, and they can't rotate to the front row. So that's the video that we have here, and this is what I want to say. If you're the R2, so it's going to happen over here. If you're the R2, you need to kind of come over here when you see the mess and help them clean it up quickly, because otherwise the R1 is going to have to make a call. And if you don't know what the rule is, you probably don't want to have to make that call. And it doesn't happen very often. It's going to be a delay warning. But, you know, if you can get the right people on the court and off the court, then you don't need to worry about applying the rule. Now he's going to do his fault thing. So it's a little bit further up the dial here. Whistle, point, reason. Ball was down. Whistle. Beckon. See how he looked over to the R2 to make sure everything's okay. He's got 5 seconds to hit the ball. We call a lift on that because it stayed. So they changed the rule several years ago to say that you can't have prolonged contact. We didn't really stress that, but it was in the rule that Alan went over. And Young Park said prolonged contact is the amount of time that it takes to say the word prolonged. So Young Park is like the best official ever to come out of this area. He's unfortunately moved to Kentucky. So if you can say the word prolonged and it's still on the person's hands, then you've got prolonged contact. But normally you're going to see that the ball is out of there, and it may be ugly and somebody might be yelling for a lift. But if you don't think it was prolonged contact, it's your judgment, and we're not going to have an argument about that. Wait a second. So libero. Well, this is that double switch again. Maybe I went backwards instead of forward. Okay, so now the libero thinks they're supposed to come off the court. So he starts drifting over. He should have been off the court 2 points ago. Nobody was going to clean this mess up before the ball was served. But it's off. Well, they called it out of rotation. Good. I want to try to show you just a regular old placement. Now, is basically just the libero. So this is the sub zone. So that's a substitution. This is the libero replacement zone. So anything that happens there doesn't require a whistle, and it's just going to be that white shirt and a black shirt exchanging places, or over here, a blue shirt and a black shirt. So on the libero replacement, going into Rule 10, which will be coming up on Thursday, but I wanted to kind of put all the libero stuff in one spot. The libero can go in for every single player. They just have to come out in between every replacement. So if they go in for number one and you want them to be in for the next player, then they have to come back. Number one has to come back in. They have to sit for a play, and then they can come back for the next player. So sometimes there is some confusion that they're only allowed to come in for one player or two players, and that's not the case. They can only come in for back row players. They don't count as a substitution. Where is important. Geez, that sounded really smart when I typed it. Now I don't remember what it means, but they can't rotate to the front row, and they can't replace anybody in the front row. So I hope that's what I meant. Also, they have to execute that replacement in the libero replacement zone, which is the 10-foot line to the end line. And people will stop the game if they're like an inch over. Don't stop the game. Just say, coach, make sure your libero comes in, have them come in just on the other side of that, please, and they'll take care of it. It is confusing for the scorer and the libero tracker who are trying to keep track of that, because if the libero ran off the court to save the ball and now they're running back in on the other side of the 10-foot line, then the libero tracker may ignore it when they should be, keeping track of it. And when is important, they have to come out. I said, for a tick, because basketball folks will know somebody comes out of the game for a substitute, they have to sit at least for a tick of the clock. So it's kind of the same, except we don't have a clock in volleyball for at least one play. Let's see what this brings us. It's going to bring us a timeout because the coach knows she's in trouble. I don't think I put this is going to be the delay warning. So if you don't know how to handle this, it's better just to, if it takes 10 seconds, especially in a sub-varsity match. That's not a normal. Ooh, look at that. That's also an illegal replacement. So, oh no, he did it. Okay. So the player did come in there, which is kind of important. But they're still out of rotation. He's going to give them a in a middle school match or a freshman match. You can just let it all. Times that the book was so screwed up where I just said, we're just going to finish this match. I don't care what it is. And this is like in the last year or two, like, I don't care what order they're supposed to be in. Let's just serve the ball and play in a sub-varsity match. Nobody in the gym knows what the heck is going on. And that was the last slide. So I want to talk about the most popular mechanics that we have for you folks that are reffing this Monday and Tuesday. I'm going to start every point with a whistle. You're going to blow your whistle 300 times for a 3-set match. Every point starts with a whistle. Every point ends with a whistle. There are timeouts, blah, blah, blah. If you're smart, you probably get yourself some earplugs to protect your hearing, because they will become affected after a couple of years of doing that. But every point is going to start. Am I on camera or no? Sojan. Oh, now what happened? Oh, am I on camera? So every
You'd have
point
to
is going to,
stop sharing.
what's up?
You'd have to stop sharing for us to see you.
Okay, thank you. So every point is going to start whistle while your arm is extended to beckon. After you whistle, give it a second and then move. So
It's a black screen.
that sounds kind of, you have a problem with black screens?
And your phone and your camera's off on your phone too.
All right, I'm just going to throw a light on, see what happens. The dice, this is a computer. I bet they have a piece of tape up here covering the camera. So I will revert to the telephone and you see me now? So you all know these anyway. So it doesn't matter whether my camera's on or not, but every point's going to start with your arm extended with a whistle. Give it a second and then just bring your arm across your chest, beckoning for serve. When the ball becomes dead, immediately blow your whistle. Don't anticipate it though. Wait for it to hit. Like if the ball is flying towards the wall and in your mind, nobody has a chance to get it. Imagine that Gumby is one of the players and their little green ball of clay arm can reach up and get it. Wait for the ball to hit the wall before you blow it. But once it hits the wall, blow it and look to your partner and see if maybe they had a touch. So Lynch, you emailed me earlier about the end of set. Also, we have mechanics that are going to be seen by everybody, like this and this. There are also informal mechanics that are only meant for us to see. So when we get to 24, the R2 who has her back to the table, the young lady who's keeping the book is going to yell, set point, set point. Or you can verify that. It's probably better if you verify it at 23. Is the score correct? 23. And then when they score another point, you're at 24. And the next point is set point. So the R2 is going to let the R1 know, hey, wake up here, look at the scoreboard. The next one's the last one, because it's really embarrassing if you're the only one in the place that doesn't know it's set point. The R1 is never going to do this. This is a secret code between the R2 and R1, and it's only given by the R2 to the R1. And so that's one of our informal signals. We have also, if there's a hit that happened, like I always, in my pregame with my partner, I'll say, don't let me make us look bad. I'm going to have a brain fart at the end of the second set, beginning of the third set, where I'm either going to call a 4 that was only 3, or I'm going to let a 4 go that was a 3. And if my partner's over here going, that was the 4th hit, then I'm going to blow the whistle and I'm going to call a 4. So that's an informal signal. If the ball handling happens with the back to the R1, but the R2 sees a prolonged contact or lift, then they can give this as a informal signal. This would be an informal signal for a back row attack. So these are all signals that are help calls, basically. In volleyball, there's a hierarchy. The R1 is the person that makes all the determination. So if you do another sport, you may be used to being a partner where either official or any of the officials can blow the whistle or make the call. But in volleyball, so the calls are made only by the R1, and the R2 can only give a help signal. So we have a series of calls like that. So you're gonna have the serve. A lot of the time, as we talked about in the recent rule, a serve is going to hit the net, hit a teammate, or hit the floor before it crosses the net. And the signal would just be point over here and touch the net. First, you would blow the whistle when it hit the player or the court. If the ball happens to go over the net and lands on the court in, then the point would be to the serving team. And the reason is that the ball was down on the court. If the ball goes long or sideways, etc., then the point would go to the receiving team and the signal is out. You won't have to worry about the substitutes. So I only want to worry about the things that you're going to have to worry about. And then we'll go over everything in the classroom in the last two that we have. So like a substitution or a timeout, you can just look at the team and go, yeah, I got you. You want a sub? Go ahead. You want a timeout? You got it. Blow the whistle on the timeout and start a count either on your watch or as a young R2 from one of the work teams told me, if you hum the Jeopardy theme twice, that's 30 seconds. And you just get them back out on the court. Let's see. So we didn't, as an R1 in Bristol, you're not going to have an R2, probably. There may be an opportunity to have an R2, but you're probably going to be working alone. The R2's prime responsibility is the net and center line, and then to help the R1. So when there is no R2, if you say, you know what, I'm looking at the ball, and so I might have missed a net here because I'm watching the ball over here. No, it's totally acceptable. However, if you see somebody hit the net, and it's pretty strict in Federation, it is a net violation. And so as the R1, you would signal point and then net. They would expect you to give, if there was an adult coach, which you probably won't have. I think there's one team that has an adult coach and it's all laid back, but you would give a number too, which is why we practice, given the numbers. But if you just say net and point, the center line violation, if their foot is all the way over the line, if their knee is on the line, if their hand is all the way on the other side of the line, that's a center line violation. And we just point to the line, just like if it was a football. If their foot hits the line on a serve tomorrow, like just they toe the line, let it go. If their foot's on like halfway over the line or over the line, call it football, and they'll know it. I hate to embarrass kids when they do that. If you let it go, then we have an opportunity to say to them, hey, take a half step back there. I don't want to have to call that on you. So those are going to be the major calls. I mean, if you do have to call a sub, it's the same as traveling in basketball, although they only let it go. If you get into it too much, like I would, they say, no, it's only 3 times around. Like, how the hell am I supposed to count 3 times? But figure it out. 3 times around is the signal for a substitute, which is called by the R2 and then mirrored by the R1, except, as I say, tomorrow you won't have an R2. Does anybody have any questions on, let's start with Rule 9 in that video that we were looking at. Does anybody have a question on the rotations? It's going to take a while. You're not going to, again, I didn't call it I'm not even going to tell you how many years, but there's 2 digits in the years. Like it wasn't 9 years, it was 10 years or, that's not a good thing. That's a horrible thing. But we weren't training people on how to do that. So, but you don't have to worry about doing it this year. Just really work, when you're the R2, if you don't know, like, 5 and 2 are opposite, or 5 is the setter, you can turn around and look at the book and find out who our opposite is. And you can see who served last if you know what you're looking at in the book. If you don't know what you're looking at, you can say to the scorer, who's the next setter? Who's the next server? And if she says the next server is 2, then 2 is a front row player, which means your setter, number 5, is in the back row. We'll get you centered on and focused. Like if stuff happens with the middles, like the people in between, like they showed that rotation where the middles can switch, but one's got to be in front of the other. It doesn't happen a lot, and it's really kind of more advanced. If somebody yells at you 3 years from now that you didn't call that, I'll have your back. But then you'll add it to your toolbox. You'll get that down. Does anybody have any questions on the serve? So the mechanics, you watch, this match with, I don't know if you can't see my computer now, but the match that we were just watching, I'll post a link to it. I'll also post the link to the game that Alan and I did at Connor that I was showing some plays from, and just watch like what happens when the ball is served and what the mechanics were. For tomorrow, dress code, golf shirt, polo shirt, or a fancy t-shirt. You can wear shorts if you want. And, ultimately, black socks, black shoes, but, tomorrow, black sneakers. Tomorrow, if you wear, white sneakers and white socks. I never got, back when I was starting officiating, you had to wear white socks. Now you look like an old man, which I am, so I guess it's appropriate, but like all the cool people wear black socks and black shoes. So, if you do that, you're fine. If you need a whistle, let me know. The head referee there tomorrow, his name will be Mark Mosher, Mosher. He's an older gentleman. He has gray hair, gray mustache. He'll be wearing probably shorts and a golf shirt. There'll be several officials there to help you. Mark may be standing. So as you have to park in the back of the Boys and Girls Club, walk up the right side or the south side of the building to enter. And then Jim is to the left all the way down. But Mark will probably be outside the gym before you get to those doors to intercept you and introduce himself. So it should be, really low stress, except for what you put on yourself as far as officiating goes, which is good. I think if you're feeling a little stress, but definitely not make or break stuff. The kids know what they're doing. They're probably JV kids about to be varsity, and so the level of play will be. Then they're teammates. They've been playing on the same team for several years, and they know where they're supposed to be, etc. So it's not going to be very stressful. If you get there like 15 minutes early, Mark can give you the lay of the land and how long timeouts are and who is going to be on your court to give you feedback, and take whatever feedback you get. I always want to encourage people, like, if you hear something that is different from what you heard from me, let me know. It could be that I need to talk to somebody and say, let's make sure we get on the same page on that. But we don't want it, and it's inevitable. You're going to get cross signals from different officials about something. You're like, wait a second, the guy on Monday told me that I should do it this way, and the woman on Friday told me I should do it that way. So take it all kind of with a grain of salt, write it down, and see how whatever the feedback is feels for you. But make those whistles crisp, short and crisp, and make this mechanics, nice and sharp as well. And you'll do well. You'll sell every call when you're out there. So what I want to do is let people go who want to go. I'll hang out. If there are questions that people have, I should let you know that one of the requirements for continuing is passing the 50-question exam that we all have to take. I'm going to give it to you probably on Thursday, give you an opportunity to take it. It's open book, and correct those to 100. So everybody that takes the test will get a 100, but we'll work on the ones that people are having more trouble. So look for this week. So keep your nose in the books, and if there are any questions, regardless of whether something that's going to come up tomorrow, feel free to stick around and ask them. Anybody? Everybody still awake?
What do we need to bring there?
Just a whistle.
Just a whistle? Okay.
And it would be best if the whistle was connected to a lanyard that was around your neck so that you don't have to hold it.
Okay.
It's the case that I imagine that the teams can call timeouts that will be 30 seconds in length. So if you have a watch that has a stopwatch on it, then that would probably be useful. But if you don't worry about it.
Okay.
It'll probably be hard for you to remember to start the stopwatch, with everything that's going to be going on there. I wish I could be there. I got to run so I'll be there on Tuesday to see how folks are doing and getting an idea of what we need to talk about on Thursday. Anybody else?
Is it a 6 o'clock start tomorrow in Bristol?
It is.
Thank you.
Also,
And-
Chris, Mark said he was supposed to send out a packet. I didn't receive a packet. Did anybody else receive a packet from him?
What was the packet from Heather?
No, from Mark. He told me when he called me that he was going to send out a packet to give us all the information, but I didn't receive anything yet from him.
Okay, so all the information should be on the website that sent out, that has the schedule and the contacts. It has the address of the Boys and Girls Club.
Okay, so that's what he meant by the packet then.
I
Putting
think
it.
so. I'll touch base with them when we're done and ask them.
Okay.
All right, Chris, how about mentors? When should we try and select mentors?
He doesn't let the trainer be a mentor for some reason, so I'm really out of the loop with that. But it probably starts either with so on Labor Day weekend, there is a jamboree at Glastonbury High School that she uses to evaluate officials. And will be assigned by then, or if they're assigned going into the first week or two of the season.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. So I'm just gonna sit here. If you're good, you can disconnect and go watch 60 Minutes. And if you have questions lingering, I'll hang out and we can talk about that. Otherwise, I'll see you, some of you on Tuesday at 6 in Bristol, and the rest of you on Thursday at 6 o'clock in Glastonbury. I don't see the numbers going down at all. So anybody have any questions about anything that we've gone over at all for the last month that you want clarification on, or know how it plays out on the court? Or
Christian, I'm just confirming that, Jeff Gaucher and I traded those dates, so you're set with that. So I'll be there on Tuesday, and then he'll take my July 31st.
I'm not even going to make the switch on the calendar. You guys got
Yeah.
it covered. As long as we have a swap out, we're good. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I'm starting, we have this league in Hartford. We got 8 teams of boys and 5, I think, teams of girls. And some of the teams have 3 people that want to be on the list and they all have questions. And then I've got referees asking, I don't want to sound like Heather and complain about, but it's like, it's just not my skill set to respond to all this stuff. So if you say you guys switched, I'm not even going to make a check mark in the box. To be honest, we are scheduled at a level in Bristol that is very healthy. So if somebody even misses, it's not going to be a problem. So we're good. All right. I'm down to 11. Anybody? Last chances? 9. All right. So I'll see you Tuesday and Thursday. And I appreciate your time tonight and have a good beginning of the week.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.